So glands and secretions. So what we have here is that they can actually fold in and form something we call glands. So whenever you have these glands, they're actually specialized epithelia, but instead of just being a flat sheet of cells, they're actually able to kind of form all these structures and tubes. So what do? Well, think about these epithelia, they also produce secretions. And secretion is something, basically think of a cell producing something and then releasing it to its environment. Yeah, so secretions are released onto apical surfaces. And there are multiple types. So there's also these terms exocrine versus endocrine. Endocrine we actually cover in PHYL 142, but think about it this way. These are two actual very useful root words. When you see the term exo, it's like in insects they have an exoskeleton. Their skeleton isn't on the outside, it's actually on the or actually not on the inside of their body, it's on the outside of their body. So exocrine means you're secreting something onto some sort of surface that's external to our body. So that might be this, like for example, the sweat you see here. Whereas endocrine, you're secreting it toward the inside of your body. So you have an epithelia or some sort of cells or glands, but they're secreting it into things like inner environments like your bloodstream. Okay, so what we have here is like type of secretions. We have serous glands and mucus glands. We are often, I mean, these are different ones, and don't worry, like serous glands, just know that compared to something like mucus, which is very thick, I mean, we all know like when we blow our nose or cough up mucus, we know that's kind of thick. And why is it thick? Well, it actually has a lot of carbohydrates and these other proteins called mucins. And these are glycoproteins. They're proteins, but they also have sugar molecules attached to these proteins that allowed it to hold on to water. So that's why our mucus is very, very thick. Now, sebaceous glands, when you think about sebum, think about this oils. So when sebum is this oil, waxy secretion. So a lot of the sebaceous glands we find, these are the ones that get clogged up when we have acne, or sometimes if someone has very oily hair, they might have overactive sebaceous glands. And there's also mixed glands as well. So think about it this way: serous is watery, mucus is like mucus, and sebaceous is oily. And there are some things that are kind of in between. Now, modes of glandular secretion. So the cool thing is that some glands, like merocrine secretion, they have these vesicles and they use that process, exocytosis. They're secreting stuff toward the apical surface, but the cells, they stay undamaged. And why do they stay undamaged and intact? Well, the thing is that in apocrine secretion, what happens is that the apical parts of these gland cells, they actually pinch off, and the cell still has some of it left over. But this part right here, when it breaks down, it actually becomes part of the secretion. So it kind of breaks off part of itself to actually become the secretion. It doesn't break apart completely, just the apical part. Now, and the cool thing is that it can regenerate and start the whole cycle again. And then holocrine secretion. Now this is very interesting. It's a stratified layer of cells, but we have these cells over here on the basal side. These are constantly dividing and generating new cells. But the cells that are pushed furthest away from the basement membrane, these actually die off entirely. So these whole cells, they die off. But what prevents this cell layer from completely dying off altogether? You have these basal cells that push up more and more cells, but as they get older and pushed more toward the surface, they start to die off and form secretions. So now a whole cell becomes a secretion. That's where the hollow part comes in. The hollow means whole. So cells here provide, and yeah, as they go, they start secretion. As they go towards the apical side, they become secretions. Now let's see. This already sums it up here. Now let's talk about the shapes. And again, if you have that lab, by all means, you can go to get ready, take a little bathroom break before lab. But let's cover this real quick. This is the last part I have to cover today. So exocrine glands have multiple types of shapes, and what we have here. So whenever you see this term alveolar, think of it as some sort of like globe-like or round structure. So alveolar, you also find alveoli like structures, not the same. They're not the same as the gland alveoli, but you also might have heard like alveoli in your lungs, which is true. And that there's alveoli there. There's also alveoli in the mammary glands, and actually those are a type of gland. But alveoli refers to some sort of thing, or like I think another way they describe it is like it's like a cluster of grapes. But you have some that are tubular. They're not round, they're more elongated. Sometimes they form coils, sometimes they're branched as well. So here we have tubes. So again, tubes are like test tubes. They're long and they're round. And what we have are simple tubular glands. Here we have a simple tubular because it looks like a test tube. Here we have a simple coiled tubular, so it's like a test tube but it's coiled around. And here we have a simple branched tubular. So when it says branched and simple, you might be like, wait, what's the difference between that and complex? Well, notice that it's only branching once and that's it. Now here we have alveolar. So again, alveolar is just one round-like structure. And branched, you have multiple structures, but they still have that same passageway. They still have share the same puka at the surface. So I like to think of it like a cluster of grapes over here. Now compound glands. Now compared to the simple ones, what we have here is that when you go toward the surface, there's actually multiple branches. So it's not just one branch, but branches upon branches upon branches. So when you have multiple branches and they're all tubular ends, these are compound tubular. But when it has that compound alveolar, they're round ends, but they have branched multiple times. Like it branches once here, and then branches again here, so therefore it's compound. And when you have both tubular and alveolar ends, what do? You just mash the two words together and you get tubulo-alveolar. Very creative, but I like it because it takes away the guesswork instead of them coming up with a totally unrelated third name. So just like you're able to build the epithelia, you can build the gland. So you have your path. So is it simple or is it coiled? If it's if it's branched or if it's compound. So again, like if it has one branch, it's branched. But if it has multiple branches, it's a compound. And is it tubular? Is it grape and round shaped, or does it have both? Tubular, alveolar, or tubulo-alveolar, and then gland. And that's all I have for today. So thank you to our moderators, and thank you for those of you who hung out for these additional 3 minutes. And Mr. Peanut, let me see if because if you saw last time, he was like a little cranky because he got woken up from his nap. Yeah, that's the thing about them when they're older, is like they tend to... Come on, are you here? So, okay. Wait, wakey. Oh yeah, he's still a little like... Hi everyone, yes. He doesn't like the headphones. He's like, too many lights. I don't like blue lights. I want to get my nap in. Don't worry, it looks like he's biting, but it's all play. But yeah, thank you everyone, and see you all on Wednesday. I'll try to fix the slides from Friday, and be sure to try out the test drive, because again, it's not for any points, but to solve any troubleshooting problems you would have with Top Hat or Proctorio before the actual test day. So it's to limit your stress on test day, alright? Okay. Yeah, and Nightbot is still going crazy about them. But yeah, okay, yeah, you can go back to taking a nap, alright? So see you all on Wednesday. Take care and stay healthy until then.